This is Mile High.
We have to do it better in order to move people along.
Up, down, inside out.
If you get your mind right,
it is not. It is a receiver of thought.
because love is my first technique.
It's now time for the show.
The Mile High Chiropractic Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Daniel Knowles. Thank you for being with us today and tuning in wherever you're tuning in, whether it be iTunes or Stitcher or YouTube or Facebook. And if you're tuned in on one of those, make sure you hit subscribe. We'd love to make sure you never miss an episode because they're chock full of information to help you impact the world better. And if you do not already have it on lock and dialed in for your calendar, book your flights, book your hotel. In fact, the hotel block, by the time you hear this, might already be gone. We were over it. I had them extend it. But you need to be at Mile High August 17th to 20th, www.milehighchiro.org. It is the chiropractic event of the year. And in addition to introducing our guest who will be there, he was there last year, wowed the audience. It's very hard to actually nail him down to a physical location because he's so all over the place. So I'm glad he was able to take time out of his busy schedule to be on the podcast with us, the one and only Dr. Shawn Dill. You know him from the Black Diamond Club. You know him from the Art of the Specific and the Specific Centers. And he almost needs no introduction at this point. Welcome to the Mile High Podcast, Dr. Shawn Dill.
Wow, thank you. Damn, man, you got to slow down just a little bit. You must have drank some good coffee this morning.
I only had a sip, man. I didn't even get to have it yet. I might try to have some sips like in between, like asking you questions. So
well, if you're gonna speed up, then don't drink anymore.
Well, maybe
supercharged.
I didn't have cannolis either, so.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on. There are very few as speakers, and there are a lot of chiropractic events that go on. I mean, geez, if you look around on Facebook, social media, there's probably an event every single weekend. Having had the opportunity to visit a lot of these events, to speak on the platform at a lot of them, let me tell you that there are very few events that as a speaker that I get super charged up for, and Mile High is one of those. And so I'm super honored to be invited, to be able to participate. Even these things, these extra, these add-ons, these bonuses that you guys put together for everybody leading up to the event, not just, promo, endless spam in people's inboxes, but giving content before the event. That's also exciting as well.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. And that is an important thing. I don't think you can have a movement in one weekend. It has to go all year. And we want people to have an experience and connection year round. And getting people to get to know you better before they see you in person, as well as the other speakers, I think is invaluable. You'll get as much out of this. Well, not as much, but you're going to get a lot out of this, I'm sure. So, and you're just coming off a big event for yourself, which was your Money Matters program. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, we do through the Black Diamond Club, which is a group. And in all reality, what it is it's a laboratory where we have taken service professionals, amongst which are chiropractors, and we work together on marketing, sales, and mindset strategies. And it's a very transparent group. The way that I market, the way that I sell, the sales funnels, all of that, we teach those very same strategies to the people in the group. And we actually are super transparent so that you're able to watch those strategies in action working on you, which is quite unique, right? It's not like there's one strategy to get you in the group and then we teach you something else. We actually teach you to do exactly what we're doing. So we had last weekend we do 3 workshops every year. We do a sales and a marketing workshop. And last weekend we debuted our Money Matters workshop. It was the first time that we'd ever put it on. Lacey and I were excited about the content. We had spent months putting together, studying, looking at the top performers in chiropractic in the service world, looking at their habits, looking at their mindset, the ways that they think about money, the ways that they earn money, invest money, and more importantly, relate to money. But we didn't know how people would receive it, to be honest. People, money matters. What is that? Duh, money matters. That workshop, to be honest with you, that was the best received workshop that we've done to date. People were absolutely blown away. We had fantastic contributions from Dr. Eric McIntyre, from Alok Trivedi. A lot of people might know of him through Chiro Sushi. Eric McIntyre practices in Salt Lake City at the Specific Chiropractic Center. And then Joseph Conrad, a CPA that many of us use in Black Diamond Club. He was out, and man, he just dropped some major, knowledge as far as the way that we manage taxes, write-offs, all of those things. And it's interesting. What I've come to learn is that a lot of service professionals, we've learned, this is the craziest thing. We've learned business from each other, like word of mouth. Like we're at a seminar and I'm like, hey, Danny, did you know that you can write off a car if you paint it purple and have, sparkly rims? And you're like, what? No. And then we just go and we do it. Right. And
dude,
and
I'm writing it down. I'm going to go paint my car purple right after this. Thank
you.
It's
crazy stuff. What's out there and what we do. It's word of mouth from just friends. There's no real, formal education on it. And I'm not saying that a workshop over the weekend is formal education, but we try to bring in experts to talk to our members about, what you can and cannot do. And that was fantastic. And so, yeah, the response has been unbelievable. We're sort of still on that high. And right after Money Matters on Monday, the Monday after Money Matters, we initiated a 28-day challenge. So the members of Black Diamond Club, we have one task every day for 28 days. They take around 5 minutes to complete. And we are pretty much guaranteeing, I'm not a guarantee type of guy, but we're pretty much guaranteeing that if you follow along and complete the task, that you'll see a growth in your business. They're super simple things. There's just things that probably slip through the cracks over time or that you've never really thought of. And the people are really getting excited about that. Let me tell you, Black Diamond Club is and not to promote it, because if you've come to know me, that's not my style, is to leverage all of the promotion. But you asked this question, and I will say, not in a promotional way, that the Black Diamond Club is one of the most positive, uplifting groups that I've ever been a part of. And sure, I started it, but the community takes on its own personality, and the people that are in there. I mean, yourself, Michelle. Some very positive people that engage in that community and just make the value in the people, not in me or the content, but in the networking and the sharing, the friendships and the collaboration and the support. That's really where the value is.
And that is so needed by people. People need to feel like they have a group to connect with and be a resource for them. And it's a really incredible resource. And people raved about Money Matters. It's funny, I was joking around Daniel Bai because he said, hey, if you're in business, money matters. And I was like, well, I think it matters even if you're not in business. Probably matters to everybody, pretty much.
Yeah, so, this was great. One of the thoughts that was shared with us from Alok Trivedi actually was to write down. He challenged us to write down 200 things that depended on money in your life. And he said, you go all the way back from when you were born. Maybe your parents weren't chiropractors. If they weren't chiropractors, you had regular diapers, Pampers. But even Pampers cost money. I mean, if without money you have no diapers. Without money, you have no food. And you start to think about, man, all of the things in my life that are driven by money. That then, and somebody pointed out, there's always going to be people that want to, take a shot at you. And so somebody had posted on Facebook, people matter. Yeah, people do matter, and in the service industry, the people matter because the people are the ones who we are providing the service to. But if the people are not in fair exchange, so they're not exchanging something, and we could have said currency matters, but that doesn't sound very sexy. So some currency needs to be exchanged. The people do matter because that's the source, right? And and like I said, we're all in a service profession. So we're providing a service. Service to who? To people. You don't provide service to inanimate things. Right. One, because they can't receive it. Two, because they can't pay for it, right? And so, this thing of Money Matters, it really was important. There were major breakthroughs. I see a lot of people that struggle, not because they don't know technique, not because they're not great healers or not great clinicians, but because they're so screwed up in their heads about money, about being in fair exchange. They have guilt and shame around that versus having joy and, experiencing excitement, rewarding themselves. That was something we worked on. All of those things are super important. That allows you and me to provide my best service. When I'm being paid well and I'm in fair exchange with the people whom I'm serving, I do great work. When I'm not in fair exchange, then there's resentment. I begin to get angry. I don't provide my best service because I wonder whether or not you actually value me. So all of those things are ridiculously important.
And service-centered industry, I'm very glad you say that, because that's something that chiropractors forget, is that really when you're in practice, this is a service-oriented business, and they have to really learn to maximize, excel, improve their ability to serve people and their business be service-centered, and it's something you can learn, but it's really an art, and people forget that. They think they're clinicians, but really they have to be, and you have to be a good clinician, don't get me wrong, but if you're going to run a profitable, successful business, then you have to be service-oriented and maximize that.
Yeah, and since we're with your Mile High crew right now, let me also add from a chiropractic perspective. One of the things that we discussed at Money Matters was getting really clear on who or what you serve, right?
Right.
And the reality is, this was a big one. If you could really capture this, and a lot of people get hung up on this, is that we really are not in service to the people. So the person that wrote "People Matter," that's actually not true. We are in service to the mission, right? And each individual has a different mission in life, but that's what we're serving, is our particular vision, our particular mission. But if we're going to make a broad stroke, sort of assumption here for the people that are watching, because it's Mile High Chiropractic, we should make sure that we're standing in service to chiropractic, not the people. You see, if I'm in service to my patients, then the patients come in and they tell me, my knee hurts. Can you rub it? Now, if I was truly about serving them, I would rub their knee. If they said, can you give me a back rub? If I was all about serving them, I would rub their back. If they said, Doc, can you give me $5? I would say, hey, listen, my whole thing is about serving you, so here's $5. We're not really in service to the patient because we don't answer to the patient. We're in service to the mission, and in this case, chiropractic. So we have to make extra sure that as we go through, that we are serving chiropractic. We want to do right by chiropractic every day. So you should ask yourself, for everything that you're doing, am I doing right by chiropractic? Whatever it is, that adjustment, that, before you make a purchase in the office, is this right by chiropractic? Am I serving chiropractic? And that's what, I love about the Knowles family. It's not just Danny, it's Rochelle as well. They are always standing in service to chiropractic. I mean, think about it. Mile High, as a movement, is not really to serve chiropractors, and it's definitely not to serve Danny and Rochelle, because it takes a ton of their time, and they don't make money off of this. But what it does is it furthers the profession. It furthers chiropractic. And here's what happens: by standing in service to your mission, then universally you are provided for. So the money does come. Maybe it doesn't come from Mile High, from the seminar, but it shows up in practice. It shows up in Lifetime Wellness. It shows up in the seminars. It does show up in these areas. Why? Because they are doing right by the profession. So, I mean, listen, there's a great lesson there for all of us. Do right by the mission. Do right by chiropractic, and you will be served in return, and you will be blessed abundantly.
Well, thank you very much for saying that, and that's all 1,000% true. And one of the things I really appreciate about you is people say that chiropractic's a philosophy, science, and art, and that's true. Also, we have to excel in business if you are going to deliver the philosophy, science, and art, right? So there's a philosophy, science, art, and business aspect. There's very few people that you look around in chiropractic that have a vast array of knowledge in all four of those areas, and you're one of them. People may be very strong philosophically, then their technique is not so great, or they're very good into science and their philosophy is not so great, or their business is bad, and you have incredible amount of knowledge and strength in all four of those, which you do not see that often, which is why I'm so glad to have you be at Mile High and get to share the information that you share. And you're becoming more and more known for business. I think actually you're becoming so much known for that. People may forget that you really are incredibly philosophically knowledgeable, as well as technique and science and art knowledgeable. And I'm looking in the chiropractic profession because I want to highlight that this is really an incredible strength of yours. What do you see in terms of, not necessarily talking upper cervical specifically, no pun intended, not trying to talk upper cervical specifically, but in technique where people get lost in being able to deliver good care?
Well, I think, I want to go back to what you said. And first of all, I want to tease what I'm going to talk about at Mile High.
Good.
I have a presentation that is going to actually be based off of, so the content I'm going to admit this at Mile High, the content is not going to be all entirely mine. It's not going to be all original. I'm going to give credit to Dr. Nick Werner out of Winnemucca, Nevada. We were in Mexico about a month ago, and he gave a presentation. At night after you've served, hundreds and hundreds of people, we usually have like a decompression period, and oftentimes we'll have presentations, structured, formal presentations. And Nick got up and gave a presentation that absolutely knocked my socks off. And I asked Nick, I said, "Hey, Nick is more of a quiet guy. I don't know if you know Nick. A lot of people that know Nick, he's kind of a quiet, soft-spoken guy, really knows his stuff chiropractically." And I said, I've been blessed to be given the opportunity to speak on a lot of these stages, and I know that that's not necessarily your thing, but this message needs to get out. And if you would give me permission, I would love to incorporate this into some of the presentations that I'm giving. And so the first time that I'm going to give it actually is going to be at Mile High, and we're going to be talking about actually the blend of philosophy and business. And we're going to be picking apart what I believe is one of the most misunderstood principles in chiropractic. In fact, I would put it up there tied for first with principle number 6, principle of time. Everybody thinks that means it takes time to heal. That's not what that principle means. Principle number 33. For many years, listen, I taught philosophy at Life Lesson for many years. In my studies, I honestly felt that there were 32 principles plus 1. Like, I was just like, they got to 32. I felt like they symbolically wanted 33. 33 is a very symbolic number to our forefathers. And I felt like they just were stuck and they just threw 33 in there. Honestly, that's kind of what my thought process was. I've come to have a greater understanding. Dave Serio asked Lacey and I to write on principle number 33 for his upcoming book. And I asked my good friend, who has since passed, Dr. Andy Roberts, and we talked it down. We sat up, we talked about it, we tried to come up with what exactly is going on. And philosophically, I felt like he gave me a great understanding. I was like, I got it. But then Nick came along and had a different view, a view where we talk about the law of demand and supply. And, first of all, it's interesting because it's not supply and demand how we typically say it. It's demand and supply. And we talk about where the demand comes from. But listen, the law of supply and demand is typically known as a business construct, right? It's the law of supply and demand. Right. And here we're using it from a philosophical construct. We're just changing the order. It's demand and supply. And we're talking about how the body works, right? How this works within us. But we can apply those same constructs if we understand that to our practice, to our business. And so we're going to be talking about that, right? We're going to talk about what the principle actually means. So there's going to be some legit green book philosophy in the presentation. We're going to have, Nick put together tons of citations that come from other green books, other writings of BJ's. Absolutely phenomenal. Again, full credit goes to Nick for doing that work. And then we're going to look at how we apply that to our own lives as individuals, as businesses, and how that very same principle works in our lives and in our businesses, and if we could understand it, how we could leverage it to find success. So don't miss that one. That's Friday night, I believe at 5:30 or 6:30, something like that. At the end of the program on Friday, you're going to want to be there. I'm super pumped about it, because what I like too is when I deliver content that challenges me, right? So if I'm going to talk about something that I already know, I mean, I don't get that excited about it. I like to take content that I feel like pushes the boundaries, because what that does is it allows me to push the boundaries of the viewer, right, of the audience. And this stuff is going to be super challenging on many levels, challenging our understanding of chiropractic philosophy, challenging our application of the philosophy, and then challenging our understanding in business, right, how to grow our business and grow our service. Now, you asked me about technique. To me, the simple issue is this. And you kind of alluded to this somewhat in saying, listen, a lot of people have a strong understanding of philosophy and then a weak application. It's really weird, because I oftentimes hear from people that decide to dive, and I would imagine this is the same in your case, with teaching NSA. People come out all of a sudden and say, I need to dive deep in my technique. And usually the person who's diving deep in their technique is steeped in philosophy. So here's what happens is you begin to study the philosophy, and then you begin to find incongruencies, right? The philosophy starts to tell us what chiropractic can do, and then you start saying, but I don't see that in my office. I don't experience that. I need to look deeper and find a way to actually provide this, and then you start to, look for masters, right? You run into Donnie, yourself, Rochelle, you start to run into people who are delivering that type of result in their practice, and you start to wonder why you don't see that type of result in your practice. And, that to me is the biggest disconnect, is that if you're just a technician, the technique is going to hide the philosophy or ask you to adopt a different philosophy than what is the chiropractic philosophy. If you start with the philosophy, I've always said this, in fact, I've always said this, and I think that you and I would agree with this. I would say that you and I really appreciate the work that you do with Network Spinal Analysis. I really appreciate the work that Stan Pierce Jr. does with his technique Epic. And I'm not just singling those techniques out. What I'm doing is actually signaling out the leaders and saying that they have an open mind, and we can have discussions about what we do, the differences and the similarities, and how we can blend those, right? And how we can take from everybody's knowledge, because I honestly believe there's not multiple truths in this deal. Like, there's just one centerpiece truth. We're all looking at it from a slightly different angle, and if I could adopt your perspective, I could see how we're looking at the exact same thing just through a different lens. If my sunglasses are polarized and yours are rose, it looks slightly different, but in the end, when we take off our sunglasses, we realize, we were looking at the same thing. What I notice with those technique groups is that it starts with this philosophical understanding, and then from there, the person begins to chase down the application of how to best apply their understanding, and any sort of disconnect will lead us astray. And so I think that's absolutely critical. That's the big disconnect that I see between technique and philosophy.
Yeah, and there's so much that people not diving deep, and then it doesn't match up, and they don't dive deep in one or the other. They may dive deep in their technique, and then philosophically they're off, and it really takes a lot of bandwidth to do it all, but it's also very important to grow as a practitioner and to help people to the best that we can. Next thing that I'm really grateful to have you, again, your time to be on this podcast. Next thing I want to get to ask you is, with running multiple offices, right? So that's something with the specific centers that very few people have been able to do and be able to do well. What are some of the trends that you've seen in the people that are most successful? Because obviously, if you're looking at, whether it be associates in multiple offices you own, or franchises or other business models, you're going to see trends in the people that really perform the most. What are some of the things that you see from the best people you've worked with?
Have you ever noticed that as an interviewer, it's really frustrating to interview me because I don't answer that same question? I got to go back.
I do. I notice it all the time.
What?
It gives me an opportunity to sip my coffee while you do that.
It doesn't even matter what you ask. Just gonna say whatever I want. So I got to go back. I didn't finish my thought. I guess got sidetracked. Here's what I've always said on the other thing. Here's how you should have developed, or if you're a student, develop your technique. You must understand first the philosophy. You must understand what we do. Second, you must understand or determine how you measure or how you determine if somebody is a candidate for chiropractic care and or needs an adjustment. So don't say everybody is a candidate. Listen, you have to have some sort of criteria that tells you need or don't need an adjustment, or the adjustment has been made. Like, how do we know that? That's second. That's before anything else. So just what is it? How do you determine if the adjustment was made? And then you shop that criteria against every technique that you can put your hands on, right? So whatever it is, in my world, it was infrared thermography. And then you want to put the thermography up against various techniques, if that's the criteria, and find the best technique that satisfies your criteria, right? Here's what most people do. They go to a technique seminar, they learn they do it exactly backwards. They learn the technique, they adopt the criteria that the technique guru told them to use, and then they fill in the philosophy last. That's backwards. You can't do that. You got to start with the philosophy, then the objective criteria, and then lastly, just fit in. The technique is the least of your worries, right? Once you've done that. Now, trends in people. First of all, I would say I've often said, and I'm going to say this very humbly, I believe, and I've never been recognized this. I've never been recognized for this. Nobody's ever said, this is your greatest skill set. So I'm just going to say it. What I feel that my greatest skill set is the ability to lead a group of leaders. In the specific chiropractic center, we have 31 docs. I consider all of them superstars. That can be a lot like herding cats. So if you have an office and you have staff and you have really great staff, you know what I'm talking about. It's easy to lead mediocre people. They wake up and they don't have any idea what they're doing today. And so, you just tell them, hey, why don't we do this? And they're like, oh, okay. Superstars wake up, all of them wake up and they have an agenda. They set their intention for the day. And that may not be moving in the same direction that we are collectively going. And so my job is to make sure that we herd that energy, that we focus that energy, and we get it to all move forward in one cohesive direction. One of my greatest inspirations in understanding the psychology of superstars was Chet Holmes, who's since passed away. But one of the things that he would speak about is two main characteristics that we see in superstars and high performers. And that is that, number one, they have strong rejection armor. Listen, to be successful as a chiropractor, you have to be immune to rejection. Now, that's great for a chiropractor. When working with multiple chiropractors, as maybe you have seen Danny working with Mile High, that's tough because when you tell a chiropractor no, they don't really seem to understand what that means. So if you were telling Joel Kinch, hey, listen, I don't think it's a good idea that we bring a giant birthday cake on the stage, he doesn't receive that very well. Like, he doesn't know what that means, no, right? And so that's a skill set, right? Managing.
I just have to say on that, can we please make sure that Liam Schubel does not pop out of the cake?
Well, I can make no promises on that. I can make no promises. The second characteristic that they have is strong empathy, and you can see this all over social media. Superstar chiropractors are very empathetic because we are in the service industry. That can be dangerous too because we take on a lot of the issues, right? And so we see these things happening, and the superstars in chiropractic take them on because they're very empathetic. I mean, they take them on, not like I'm going to fight it, which they do, but they take it on, right? They're like, they feel involved in it. They're hurt by it. They want to find a solution for it. And so those are two main characteristics that I see in the high performers. Other things. They're extremely what I call jealous. Jack Borla tells me that's the wrong word. I have a lot of these weird sayings that I say, like respect the money. I have these weird things that mean something to me. One of them is be jealous with your time. Jack says it's not jealous. I don't know. He gave me a better word. I just refuse to use it. But they're very dedicated. They're very stingy with their time. They plan their day out. Minutes aren't flying around loose, right? They know exactly what they're doing. They are good at cluster booking. They're efficient when they're seeing patients. Another thing that we've noticed is that they have very strong morning routines. They set their intentions. They meditate. They start their day off right. They're not on Facebook the first thing after their eyes open. They make sure that they have tuned themselves in to what they're going to do before they start tuning themselves into what everybody else is doing. And I got to tell you too, I've been talking about this a lot in Black Diamond Club. I've come to the realization that it's a small subset of people, and I see Gary Vaynerchuk talk about this a lot, where because of his notoriety, his popularity, everybody became an entrepreneur. Like everybody just wanted to be Gary Vee. They wanted to make their little Gary Vee videos, right? They had a D-Rock following them around. I got a couple of them that I like to watch on Instagram, get a chuckle out of. And he's like, you're not an entrepreneur. Like he was telling people, like, that doesn't make you an entrepreneur. In that same vein, one of the things I see in chiropractic is like everybody wants to be a superstar. I've come to realize that we're only talking about 3%. Right, 3%. In any given situation, you and I serve on various boards. I've come to understand that in that boardroom, we're talking about only 3% of the people who are willing to go way above and beyond, who are willing to show up and be extraordinary, not be pulled around the track, but to pull other people around that track, to be on the front end pulling like that locomotive, right? It's not everybody. I'm not pretending that everybody does this. And so listen, even inside the group that I manage, there's the top 3% that I would say I would put them in the top 1% in chiropractic. They're givers. I say this thing, support is conditional. Listen, I serve on the board at ASRF, at IFCO, and Sherman College. Now, you should serve and give. And the proportion to which you are serving, because remember, you serve the mission, and giving is a proportion to which you should expect, that's a different word, expect to receive. People just say well, you give and then you receive, but there is an expectation there. I find that the top earners, the top performers, they give abundantly, but listen, as we spoke about in the beginning, they have an expectation to receive. And when they receive, they're not shocked by it. They knew this was coming. So there's all these very interesting characteristics. If you're listening to us and you're like, that's not me, I don't have an expectation. The other great news is that can change. You can work on it. You can do things to change your mindset. Start to put some morning disciplines. Put your phone across the room when you go to bed. That way, when you wake up, you can't just grab it and look at it first thing in the morning. Make a decision to start your day differently. Make a decision, all these things are just choices, right? Make a decision to serve the vision and the mission. All of these things are what will separate you out from the rest of the pack. You can't just wake up and say, I'm Gary Vee, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm Danny Knowles. It doesn't work like that. You have to begin to put some of these things into action.
Yeah, absolutely. And little things like that, I never thought of it the way you said that. Trying to herd a bunch of leaders is that's got to be harder in many ways. So hats off to you for doing that, because that just rang so true to me. And doing little things like that are vital. So for example, you use the phone in the morning example, because people do that. I purposely have this thing. My phone goes into airplane mode because I use it for accessing stuff. I use it for my journaling and things, but I do it in airplane mode, so I can't see anything from anybody else, if I'm doing it, until I decide to take it out of airplane mode, which is after my morning stuff I do. People, whatever their way, you have to do that. Morning and evening rituals are so vital. And it's so overlooked, and so many people on autopilot in their philosophy, in their science, in their art, and in their business, and they don't even look at what's going on and measure and see if they're moving forward. That's why things like being in the Black Diamond Club, I want to encourage people, if you're not in the Black Diamond Club, to check it out, get in it, and get in while they're doing this 28-day challenge would be awesome. Do you want to say something about the 28-day challenge really quickly? Because I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's just 28 days, short and simple. We send you an email every day with a simple task. Take you about 5 to 10 minutes, 10 minutes max. Most of them are 5-minute tasks. You just knock it out. 28 days, you create the discipline. You get your business, in order. We've already set goals. Everybody has set goals. We've set rewards. I talk a lot about that too. and not on this, we don't have the time, but setting goals and rewarding yourself. Entrepreneurs are terrible at rewarding themselves. In fact, our associate Alex Nunn, she's doing tremendous in practice, and we're very big on that. She works directly with Lacey and I. Last month she had a record month in collections, and she decided that what she wanted was a Tory Burch purse. And so, I encouraged her when she hit her mark, you need to buy the purse. Well, she delayed it. It took her a little while. It took her actually a couple of weeks. And I was just on her this weekend, like, hey, you got to get the purse. Like, if you don't get the purse, what you've actually done is you've trained your neurology to understand that in the face of accomplishing a goal, nothing different happens.
Right.
And therefore, what would be the point of working hard or, hitting your goals? And so she actually then got the purse, and she ordered it online, and she sent me a screenshot of the confirmation page. But her next text was, you know what? Why was it that purchasing that purse was harder than hitting the goal?
Interesting.
And I was like, wow,
It's
that's totally
rewarding.
true.
Yeah,
we don't reward ourselves, and we need to do that. So all of that stuff is inside of the 28-day challenge, right? Teaching us how to do that type of thing. And we've already set goals, set rewards, and now we're driving down towards getting people on track to hit those goals. And if you jump in, listen, we can get you caught up. It's 28 days. You can roll back and then do it a week offset, or you can just get caught up. Take you 70 minutes and you'll be back caught up with everybody.
Well, and I'll tell you this: that thing about reward. I'm a fan of Anthony Robbins, and that's one of the things. That whole fire walk that he does, it's supposed to be symbolic of the steps that you need to do to hit goals and get rewards. And that when you walk through the fire, like you get in state and you're going to do whatever the task that you're going to do, right? Whatever the objective, the goal, the outcome, that when you get through to the other side, you make sure you celebrate. Right? And he has a particular thing that you do to celebrate after you've done that. And so it anchors into your physiology that after you hit your outcome, in this case, walking across the fire and doing something that people wouldn't normally do, you celebrate it and you do it right away, right? Because if you don't celebrate and reward, then you're not going to be able to search for your next thing to hit, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, well, thank you for taking the time. And really, people are going to love this podcast. I know it's going to be one of people's favorites because there is some very solid information you always deliver. You did when I saw you speak at the Berkshires every time. And that's another event people want to make sure they clear their calendar for. Certainly, by the way, when is the next Berkshires event? I don't know if I know the date. Do you know the date?
Well, I think he's changed the venue, but it's coming up, I think, in April, I believe.
Right.
April of 2018.
Yeah, I think it's April 7th, 8th. So you want to make sure you go to that. Being at Mile High, make sure you're there because we have incredible stuff. Not only are you presenting and Lacey Book presenting, but also she's doing a breakout session. And then there's other breakout sessions in CE. So we look forward to seeing everybody on higher ground. And besides, who doesn't like visiting Colorado? I mean, it's beautiful. Like, make a vacation out of it. Make that your celebration that you're going to go to Mile High when you hit your goals for August and you or July, and you join us and enjoy the scenery because it's a beautiful place to be. I will put where they can connect with you for the Black Diamond Club and Art of the Specific programs in the blog post for this. And we'll see everybody August 17th to 20th, www.milehighchiro.org if you did not reserve your seats yet. And if you did not get your hotel, I seriously... That block, I was like up it by 10 rooms yesterday. It's going to, they're not going to keep doing that for us. www.milehighchirohotel.com is where you can do that. I had people last time that were showing up and, I can't pay $139. I got to pay $269 for the hotel. I was like, well, I can't tell you. I don't know what to tell you. It's not my hotel, So I don't make the rates. You didn't act. So, and anything else that you want to say to our audience before we sign off there, Dr. Dill?
Yeah, I think on Thursday morning, Lucas Matlock and I have a golf game. So I just wanted to let Lucas know that the stakes will be high and that I'm going to win.
Got it. I will make sure. I'm sure some aspect of that will be televised in some way.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us on the podcast. Share this one with someone else and subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you on higher ground. Remember, keep changing spines and lives and minds for the better with chiropractic. Like our page on Facebook, www.facebook.com/Mile High Chiro.